This playoff season, there's only one place where we'll bet, Fanatics Sportsbook. Yes, they're our presenting sponsor, but it doesn't make sense to bet anywhere else if you're a sports fan. When you bet, you earn fan cash, win or lose, which means that your bets get you closer to accumulating fan cash for authentic jerseys, hats, memorabilia, and more. Winning hits different with fan cash. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 800-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School podcast. We are recording this at 10:30 a.m. on Mother's Day morning. We'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to say hi to gentlemen that I have not talked to since before the series started, correct? Jeremy Cohen. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, John. I'm good. You know, I was thinking could you imagine how stupid you'd have to be to pick Celtics in 5? Like, can you just take a moment, right?
Well,
think about it. Think about how dumb you'd have to be to insinuate that something that's mathematically impossible could have been possible. It's crazy. Like, I don't know what type of person would have thought that.
I can't tell if you're being facetious.
Oh, I am, because I picked Celtics in 5. So
I know you picked Celtics in 5. I know exactly why you're doing the bit, and I still can't tell if you're being facetious, which gets us right into the content of the pod, because one might argue that Celtics in 5 was an absolutely outstanding pick before this series, and it showed a whole lot of wherewithal and self-interest and introspection and the whole thing, and that only two miracles are preventing you might still be wrong, but not wrong in the direction you're going to wind up being wrong.
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, they got very fortunate with those two endings, and wins are wins. So not going to criticize them, but I would say that yesterday's game, which was difficult to watch because it was the 20-point comeback that just had no trace of showing up at any point. And I'm sure that was also a very difficult thing for you to deal with and I have not had the pleasure of saying this to you, but happy birthday, buddy. I'm sorry that it was with a game that was a loss, but I'm grateful whatever the Knicks get to play on your birthday, because it means they're at least in the second round. So happy belated, since we just hadn't touched base. And I'm sorry that it was a loss, but it was. I don't feel better. I don't feel great. I feel content being up 2-1, but nervous that, like, going into game 3 when you're losing 80% of the time that you are playing. It was either losing 80% or losing and tied for 80%.
I was about to say, they've been losing for, someone had the stat on the postgame last night.
Yeah.
They've been up for, I didn't see that. I just saw it on a super chatter. Had it last night that they've been up for like 12 out of 149 minutes or something. So that's like less than 10%. Let me say a couple. We'll get into it very soon. Let me say a couple things. One, I was actually feeling extraordinarily thankful yesterday during the game, because going into game 3, I was looking at like the Knicks money line. I was looking, shout out to Fanatics Sportsbook. I was looking at Knicks I think they were getting 6 points yesterday. I was like, oh man, one time for your lives, boys. Come on in, show those bastards what you're made of. They're going to do it. They're going to fight. They're going to this, they're going to that. I'm like, nope, I don't buy it. They ain't winning this game. And so I was incredibly thankful that they did not make it a heartbreaker. And the fact that I could sit back, I didn't get out of my chair once. I didn't yell once. I didn't bang the table once. I didn't do anything. I just sat and I watched the thing unfold on my television screen. I'm like, okay, this is what's happening today. And what's it? Yeah, of course it was frustrating. We're going to get into some of the reasons why it was frustrating today, but it could have been a lot worse. And given that I didn't expect a win going into it, I was like, hey, happy birthday to me. Giddy up. I was just kidding.
Yeah, I joked about it on Twitter where the idea of being up 3-0 on a Boston team, definitely no PTSD for me. No, sir. Everything would have been fine. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's actually better that they lost because it takes the pressure off. No, not the case.
No. No one's saying that.
I'm agreed. I had tickets to yesterday's game. I didn't go. I'm really glad I didn't go.
So can I hold on?
Yes.
I did not spill the beans.
Okay.
On the post game, but since you just brought it up,
yes.
Can so I said on the post game, I have a friend. Didn't say who the friend was, who texted our group chat throughout the week, being like, I'm on the fence. Should I sell my tickets or not? And I stayed quiet because I did not want to influence you.
You didn't dox me.
And then you texted me like, I decided to sell them. And I'm like, dude, well, I forgot what exactly I said, but it was something along the lines of if you did not sell them, I would have come over there and fucking wring your neck myself.
I'm glad I sold them. Let me put it that way. That I apologize to anyone who was physically in the building that spent really hard-earned money, because it was disappointing that the Knicks weren't able to give you a performance that was worth the money. But you should feel
ashamed of yourself, to be very clear, and you have to wear I forget the Game of Thrones character already. Who's the one who had to do the walk of shame or whatever they called it with the gong?
It wasn't Cersei, was it?
Yeah, I think it was Cersei.
Yeah.
Because she did whatever she did. Yeah, so you should have to do that down 8th Avenue or 7th Avenue or something.
I'll fan myself with my winnings. That's okay. But it was great to be able to watch with people that I am close with at our event.
Chipotle mayo.
Right. I did not get that this time. I only had drinks. I did not. Maybe that's why they lost, because I didn't get a chicken Chipotle mayo sandwich. What can I say? But I just, so much of this starts and ends with the starting lineup. And I just don't think that there's any way really around it. We could talk about scheme and how the Knicks switched things up a little bit compared to games 1 and 2. We could talk about the fact that the Celtics shots started falling. The Celtics are still a better team to me. Are they a hotter team? Statistically, yes, they are, because the Knicks have been playing so cold, yet they have the clutch gene, which has propelled them to 2 wins. We don't have to sit here and think about, hey, well, what could have happened if Brunson's shot, if his free throws don't go in it, or if Tatum doesn't get blocked, or if Mikal Bridges doesn't steal the ball. We don't have to do any of that, because the facts are the facts. It's 2-1. But the Knicks had the opportunity to close the door pretty hard. Just flat out didn't do it. And I don't feel better about this. Like, if you were to tell me, hey, do you think the Celtics could win 3 more games in a row? I'd be like, yeah, of course. I absolutely think that they could. And I feel like the sentiment keeps being, well, look at what the Knicks are doing, and they haven't even played their best basketball. And that's true. And then I keep wondering, what does their best basketball look like? Because we keep seeing this. It's not really a malaise, but it's not the high. It's not even effort. But I would argue that not a single player played well yesterday. That it was a across the board misery fest for all involved. And it was like, can they do it a third time? No, they can't. They can't do it at home.
I said on the post game, I was like, I'm looking forward to seeing Benji's grades when they come out, and I'm pulling them up right now, because I said I did not think, based on what I saw in the moment, I didn't think anybody deserved higher than a C. And Benji did give one player higher than a C. He gave Brunson a C plus, which I think I haven't talked to Benji about this yet, but I would imagine is an acknowledgement of his continuing efforts on defense, especially in comparison to another teammate of his who has similar defensive challenges, and maybe the results haven't quite been there. And also the fact that Brunson, his stat line, whatever his stat line was, he ended up shooting like, it was 27 points on 21 shots. And it's not even that. It's the fact that it's 27 points on 21 shots. Again, to use Benji's words, operating in a phone booth. To your point about the starting lineup, Jeremy, I have some numbers for you, my friend. So let's start with the first quarters only. So in the first quarters of this series, only this series. Why did it go away? Oh, there it is. Okay. In the first quarters of this series, the Knicks have played, their starting lineup has played 18 minutes. In those 18 minutes, they are getting outscored by 40-22. They have a 59.5 offensive rating, which is, let's just say it's not what you want, ideally.
By like half?
Roughly. They are 9 for 35 from the field, which is a one missed shot short of an even 25%. As it is, it's 25.7%. So good job them. And they are 1 for 9 from long range. Overall, the starting lineup in this series has played 68 minutes. They are shooting 37% from the field overall. They are shooting 23.8% from deep. They have been outscored by 29 points. And if you want to go with the advanced statistics, 90.4 offensive rating, which would be in the regular season, at least, it would be the worst number in the league by far. Even in the playoffs, it's the worst number in the league by far. Even accounting for like lesser offense in the playoffs, it's still atrocious. And they're giving up 111.0. That is a negative 20.7 net rating. And then the last bit of context that I want to give this is if there is a way to determine the exact, I'm sure I could sit down with a pencil and paper and an abacus and do this, but short of that, I don't know a way to get their exact numbers for all the minutes that the starting five as a 5-man unit is off the floor, but we can get a pretty good estimate because the starting five has played, 68 minutes in this series. As a team, they have played 149 minutes in the series. So probably 40, I don't know the exact, 43, 45%, something like that, of the minutes have been played with the starting five on the floor as a unit. I mentioned the overall numbers, essentially a 90 offensive rating, a 111 defensive rating. As a team in this series, the Knicks have a 101.4 offensive rating and a 108.8 defensive rating. So some just quick math in my head says to me that based on those numbers, when any 5-man combination of players is on the floor, other than the starting five, the Knicks have an offensive rating that is probably around 113, if I had to guess. And they have a defensive rating that I would say is probably around 104, 105, which is obviously a positive net rating. Now, does that mean if they start literally anyone else, as opposed to starting five, and they never play starting five, that they're going to go ahead and run roughshod over the Celtics for the rest of the series? Of course not. The thing with the starting five is, and why it's been hard on them, is because they are going up against the Celtics starting five, which is theoretically the best unit the Celtics have to offer. So this is not like, we tend, when we read stats like this, sometimes, I don't think us as much, but maybe we do sometimes, tend to make it as simple as like, oh, A plus B equals C, therefore, and whatever, I'm that sort of thing. It doesn't work like that. All that said, we have eyes, we have brains, and we have been watching basketball for a long time. There is a feel for this. There is a feel right now that this starting lineup it ain't it. And I just don't know what you do with that. You're up 2-1 in a series. You haven't changed the starting lineup all year. I'll just ask you, would you change it?
Yes, but I probably would have tinkered with it beforehand, and now, I mean, you're asking me personally. Yes,
I'm asking you personally.
I would.
Just your opinion.
I would. If what is not working has consistently not been working since January, I would have done something differently. But it's easy to say in hindsight. So instead of hindsight, moving forward, yes, I would. I'd probably start Mitch. It would probably, it'd likely have to mean moving Hart to the bench, but at least it gets you more energy off of the bench to that degree. I could imagine. Here's the other thing: by structuring Mitch earlier, I doubt they employ the same hack a Mitch philosophy. Not to say that they wouldn't entirely, but I thought Mazzulla doing it in game 2 and then THIBS holding off on OG was actually a great move by him. And I couldn't understand why Mazzulla would have gotten the Knicks into the bonus just by fouling Mitch. But you then, by not having Mitch at the end of a quarter, or at least closer to then, you're not forcing him to get to the line where statistically the trade-off is probably some percentage of a point that's less than 1 in terms of points per possession. But then the Knicks offense is so cold at times that you feel like, are you getting better looks from Mitchell Robinson at the free throw line than you are from running your own offense? And I doubt the numbers grade out that way, but it feels like that.
It doesn't. I mean, he was 4-12 from the line, last night, which, as bad as the Knicks offense has been, that's still below board. So I said yesterday after the game, and I think DJ kind of was with me on this, that I would also start Mitch for Josh Hart. The numbers for that lineup again are. Hold on one sec, Izzy. I am on. So again, Happy Mother's Day, everybody, or belated Happy Mother's Day by the time people hear this. My gift to my wife was to let her go get her, I think, toenails done. What's they call it? They call it a pedicure.
They do call that a pedicure.
They do call that a pedicure. Have you ever gotten a pedicure?
I have. I haven't had them painted. It's great. It's nice. You get a mani-pedi. It's relaxing.
I've never had a manicure or a pedicure. I feel like I'm a 42-year-old man. The ship has probably sailed, but maybe I should get one of these
Never
days.
Too late. Never too late.
It's true. They'll tell it to the Celtics. But anyway, they're getting my wife and older daughter are getting a pedicure right now, and I'm watching the little one. So yeah, I would start Mitch. So that lineup in this series, so the Robinson, Towns, Bridges, Brunson, Anunoby has actually not played a ton of minutes, to the point that I'm looking actually through the lineup data right now, and I don't see it as something that has played even 4 minutes, which means whatever the numbers are that you could just toss them out because if a lineup is not even played. Yeah, I'm scrolling down even more. So that lineup has not even seen any time in this series. That's still the move that I would make. There is one other lineup that has played like a somewhat significant sample of minutes, which is to say 14. It's their second most used lineup. That lineup is Brunson. What? Sorry,
14 minutes. Second
14.
Most used lineup.
It's the second most lineup.
You're saying just in the series,
just
correct?
in the series, just in the series.
That's less severe, but it makes sense.
It's just in the series. Anunoby, Hart, Bridges, Brunson, Robinson. So basically Robinson in place of Karl-Anthony Towns in the starting lineup. And I'm going to shout out our wonderful supporter and patron, Alex, who said on the post game in the super chat, I would start Robinson for Towns. And in theory, it's actually not an insane idea. Are they actually going to do that? No, you're not going to. They're not going to sit Karl-Anthony Towns, whether they should or not. 14 minutes, that lineup is killing it. They're plus 28 per 100. And then you got a couple of positive lineups as well that are also have a positive. One has a positive 24 net rating, one's a positive 21 net rating, but those are 7 minutes a pop. One of them, Towns, Bridges, Brunson, Robinson, McBride. The other one, Anunoby, Hart, Brunson, Robinson, McBride. What do all those three lineups have in common? They all have Mitchell Robinson in them. And Jalen Brunson, notably. So they all have Jalen Brunson. They all have Mitchell Robinson. And that's it. All the other pieces, there's differences. To me, it says that it almost doesn't even, not that it doesn't matter how you switch it up, but kind of feels like you have to switch it up. And that's where I'm at too. So I don't know what else there is to say about it, because I just, it's a matter of like, do they push that button, which is a button that I don't think any of us think Tom Thibodeau is going to push? Or do you stay the course and hope that trusting, but that's the thing, trusting what got you here. It's not even trusting what got you here, because you've cited these numbers for weeks, if not months. You go back to the beginning of January and the starting lineup is what it is. It's getting outscored. So yeah.
It's that, and from the Celtics side, right? We can talk about the Knicks as long as the day, or as long. But here's the crux of it. The Celtics made a decision. They made an adjustment. And their adjustment was to take Porzingis out of the starting lineup and bring him off the bench. And this, in the playoffs this year, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford. Only 92 possessions, but plus 13.5. If you do the exact same thing with Porzingis, it's ironically plus 32.1, but it's only 38 possessions. But here's the crux of it, right? We could say, well, why do they switch? Porzingis is not feeling well. But they had copious amount of minutes, a copious amount, to try this out in the regular season, right? I mean, we cited the numbers last time.
Talking about the Knicks now, right?
Well, no, I'm still talking about the Celtics. Like, the Celtics have spent a lot of time swapping their starting five with Horford in and Porzingis out. So for them, we're comfortable going with Horford instead of Porzingis. Number one, because Horford is giving us a bit more with Porzingis' malaise. And number two, because we've rehearsed this and practiced this enough that we're comfortable rolling it out. And so THIBS, the expectation of, you're someone who's comfortable in your own zone. Now you're going to bring in a completely different change, one that we haven't seen. And if it doesn't work, then it's, why didn't we try this before? Because we could have ironed it out. And if it does work, it could have worked earlier and there was just an inability to try it. So do I feel like he's in a position to be like, damned if you do, damned if you don't? Yes, but if it works, people aren't going to care because it will have worked. And my theory is it won't happen.
No one's gonna care. Look, he did something in game 1 and in game 2, not as much in game 3. We'll get to that in a second, which he didn't try all year, which is to employ an extraordinarily switch heavy scheme. So, and also 2 years ago in the Miami series, he hadn't started I don't think Josh Hart started a single game, right? After the trade until the Miami series.
He came off the bench. Yeah.
Maybe he started one or two, but whatever. He was a sub. And then in the middle of the Miami series, or to start whatever it was, early in the Miami series, Tibbs made that change. So clearly, and actually 4 years ago, Derrick Rose exclusively off the bench. And GMAC is reminding me Hart's first start was actually in game 4 versus Cleveland. Thank you, Andrew. I'd forgotten that because I can't remember anything. In the Hawks series, game 1, regular starting lineup, after starting Alfred Payton the whole year, bringing Derrick Rose off the bench, starting that series off. It took until halftime of game 2, I believe, to start Derrick Rose, and then Rose started the rest of the series, and that was the end of Alfred Payton in New York. So it's not as if we have not seen this coach make, I don't know if I would say drastic, changes in the playoffs, but like make significant changes. So again, should we put it past him? No. And yet, sitting here right now, I don't think either of us have much faith that that's coming. And then it's just a matter of, okay, well, and this is maybe could get us into some bigger picture stuff, which is what I really wanted to talk to you about today. Like, what does that mean? And before we go any further, let's acknowledge Towns was, as DJ said, I'm not going to belabor the point, pretty atrocious defensively. Whether that was him being more in drop was his call or Tibbs' call, like ultimately we can't really know. We could all assume it is what it is. He was bad. they were bad on offense. They've been bad on offense. That gets to the starting lineup issue. We could talk, as you said, about scheme until we're blue in the face. The Knicks offense is what the Knicks offense is. They're not revolutionizing their scheme now. That is one thing we know is not going to change. Like the notion that we're going to come out and see a different version of the Knicks offense. No. Personnel, maybe that changes. No, that's not going to change. So, like, they're either going to figure this out or they're not. And I guess I kind of just want to spend a few minutes talking about, like, this is going to sound very silly. How important is it what happens from here on in? Like, in the context of where we are at right now, the Knicks, by their efforts, won 2 incredible games that they, on paper, probably did not have any business winning, but they won them. And they're up, and that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how you win them. You won them. You won 2 games. And now you've gotten your ass handed to you in the biggest home game in a quarter century. In that context, how much does the rest of the series matter, and what does it matter? Like, what does it mean? And that's, I don't know that I have a great answer, which is why I wanted to ask you.
It has to mean a lot, because what we're seeing is not just a deviation from what was working. As we keep talking about it, it's not working. So if it's not working, what are the changes that you make? And then we start drifting into conversations that I don't even want us to go into, which is the season's still here. Let's not even talk about next season. But that's the problem, right? Because I don't mean for us to shy away from the conversation. I want us to have the conversation. But the worry is that if we start getting into it, that it exposes us to a line of thinking that's not in the present. But I'm with you, because something still isn't connecting, and it's a fundamental level that hasn't changed. And whether that is changing up the starting lineup, okay, you could do that. Are you then going to consistently do that? Are you going to do that? Is that your plan for next year? Like all these things that spiral, it's just like, you got to go with the team that got you here. That's what we have to focus on. But it's the team that does have the Knicks here in a 2-1 positive position, where I still feel like it's very easy to see how they could lose those games. It's very easy to see how they could come out, win 1, and then Boston has to win 3 in a row. But it's still troubling. It feels troubling. It feels precarious. The wins don't feel hollow. They feel real because they are real. But everything that has happened to get to that point, even going to the Detroit series, something isn't connecting, and it hasn't been connecting, and it's led to the wins, and that's the most important thing. And you're not hearing complaints. There are more criticisms and concerns over the next handful of games, because we know for a fact at this point that there will be a game 5. After that, who knows? The biggest concern then is there going to be a game 6? Because it would have meant that Boston pushed them further. Hopefully that it would only be, you go back to TD Garden and it's 3-2, and that's why there's a game 6. You have the opportunity to win at home. But Josh Hart even said it, where the Knicks play better on the road. So why are they not playing well at home? That's another big factor. What is the reason behind not excelling in a place where you're supposed to be comfortable? And we know for years that elite players have come to MSG and they've taken that as their moments to shine. But that's not this.
I don't think that was this either. And give Tatum credit. He came out and he made his first 4. Mm-hmm. He made 4 threes. Like that was big of him. But mm-hmm. I agree with you. I didn't mean to cut you off. But I don't think that's what this was.
Yeah, but even still, it's a troubling lineup, and it has been for a while. And to expect changes internally, maybe, but doubtful, because we've been expecting that possibility for a while, and it just hasn't presented itself.
So here's the thing. This is again, it's a conversation about what does it mean? Look, obviously, small picture, the Knicks being up 2-1 in the Eastern Conference semifinals means they're 2 wins away from the fucking Eastern Conference Finals, which would be the first time that they have accomplished that in 25 years. And that is a massive deal, potentially, for the organization and for everybody involved and the whole thing. And it means that they, as we sit here right now, despite the fact that they had their ass handed to them on Saturday afternoon, it means they have a real chance to make it to, at the very least, make it to the NBA Finals. That is all that matters ultimately, because those chances don't come along, especially for this organization. Those chances do not come along. So that is what it means in the small picture, and that is by far paramount. The reason why I felt it was important to at least have this conversation, and you just elucidated on this very well, is usually when a team gets to this point, which is to say, they have won a first-round series, which against was it a great opponent? No, it wasn't a great opponent, but it's not like they went out there and beat this version of the Heat or like the Kings or something like that. They beat a real team. Were the Pistons the 10th best team in the league, the 11th best team in the league? They were a real team, right? And now they are up 2-1 on the defending NBA champions, and those defending NBA champions were the favorite going into this playoffs. 4 out of 5 times, maybe even 9 out of 10 times, a team in the position the Knicks are in, having done what the Knicks have done so far, you would not have to have the level of big picture conversations that we're sitting here attempting to try to have, because you're like, oh, that's proof of concept. So what? Maybe they can't close out the Eastern Conference semifinals because the Celtics are a great team. It's okay. You've gotten to this point. There's something here that works. You could avoid the biggest of the big picture conversations, right? And yet I sit here and I look at a number 10. And do you know what that number represents? It represents the total amount of points that the Knicks have won the last 5 playoff games by. 2 points a game. That's it. What does that tell me? It tells me that there is something in this culture, in this locker room, that is real. This team has all the buzzwords we always use: grit, toughness, mettle, intestinal fortitude, all the things. That's great. And we love that. And we don't want to get rid of that. And I don't think anything they could do this summer within the bounds of reason could get rid of that. And that's great news. And that's a wonderful place to be. And it's a wonderful place to be for the summer. And it's a wonderful place to be right now. Because guess what? Despite everything that we're talking about that is not perfect, they could go into game 4 and they could be in it for whatever reason in the last 5 minutes, and they can emerge with a win because of they have that quality, right? But it also forces us to be honest. And it also forces us to have a conversation that, again, most teams in the position the Knicks are in would not have any need to have. And yes, it's about the coach. Yes, it is about the personnel to a certain extent and how the personnel fits with each other. And it's the conversations we've been having for months. But I just don't think we could bury our heads in the sand at this point and be like, it's all hunky dory. And we're not saying this just because of yesterday. To be very clear, this has been months in the making, and this is where we're at.
The clutch gene is a power to wield when you need to, not every time. Because if you are consistently going to a world where you're playing clutch, great. Okay, it's wonderful that you can pull it out and pull these wins out of nowhere, but you shouldn't be relying on it. And it feels like the Knicks have to rely on it. They have to dig themselves into a hole and then find a way back out. And if you just hadn't dug yourself into the hole in the first place, then things would be great. But the Knicks have not been able to consistently get up and stay up. How many of the Detroit games did they hold big leads and then squander them and then have to pull a rabbit out of their hat because they have Jalen Brunson? Just not putting yourself in that position to begin with would be extremely ideal. And again, if we talk about stats, just playoff wise, the Knicks as a whole in the playoffs are in the 69th percentile in defensive points per possession. The starting lineup, to go back to that, is in the 17th percentile. It just sucks to see that discrepancy. And it'd be one thing if the offense then catered in a different way, but it hasn't, because the offense for that starting lineup is in the 25th percentile for the playoffs offensively in points per possession, which is only 6 percentiles better than where the team has been as a whole, which is the 19th percentile. So it's also not like things have gotten, you cited stats and I'm with you on them. I'm not disagreeing, but there's still something that's poisoning the well entirely on the offensive side, where there's nothing that's truly groundbreaking and working. And for the Celtics, it's old reliable. Sure, they're shooting a lot of threes, but they're also comfortable with a game plan that has won them a title. And they know that they can make alterations, but at the end of the day, if they slow it down, they can create their own missed opportunities. So many of the shots they took in games 1 and 2 were rushed, where they didn't have to take those shots. They didn't pick their spots well enough. They didn't play well defensively, and they let the Knicks crawl back into the game, but they didn't even let the Knicks crawl back in. They shut the door every single time. And I don't know how you get around that, especially if I just don't know how we can expect the Knicks to start playing differently than they've been playing. And hopefully they do. But you're telling someone that's in a coma to wake up. They've still been in a coma. That's not how it works. They have to walk out of that coma by themselves. We can't just get them out of it. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I just watch the pit. It's like that's so maybe there's another way. Right. That's all I need to know. I don't have to play one on TV. I just have to watch it.
The question is, are we gonna be standing on the edge of a roof after the series over, looking out over the city of Pittsburgh, having thoughts?
It'd be a great question. Yeah, we'll figure that one out. No.
Stop it, Andrew.
That's how the show starts. The show starts standing out. Andrew. Come on, get out of here. So, yeah, it ain't working. It's just not.
I just went because I wish I did this stuff beforehand, but you say stuff and I'm like, you know what? That's a great point. Let me try to back this up. So I just went and I looked at, if you add up the deficits that the Knicks have, the biggest deficit the Knicks have had in each of the last 6 games that they've played, which notably they have won 4 of. They've won 4 of these games. 99 points over the last 6 games. So 31 to Boston yesterday, 20 points to Boston, 20 points to Boston, and then 2 of the Detroit leads were double digits. Like, again, they get all the credit in the world for pulling these wins out. And to suggest for even a second that is not #meaningful is ridiculous. It is the most meaningful thing, actually, because at this time of year is where you kind of have to go, like, even if you're completely a process over results person, and I consider myself a process over results person. I think you consider yourself a process over results person. At this time of year, man, the results are what matters, you know? And again, they've won 4 out of these 6 games, but it is why we have to sit here and have this sort of talk. Again, we're not sitting here making any trades right now. We're not firing anybody right now. But
we're also not saying the season's over.
Oh, no.
And I know you're not insinuating that.
But I kind of was for a second. That's a bad job by me. It is more like, to go back to the question, it's why I asked it. It's like, why specifically, or how specifically do these, however many games are left in the series, why do they matter so much? Obviously they matter a lot, but it is not just an opportunity to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and potentially go to your first NBA Finals in 26 years. It is, we are still sitting here on Mother's Day, asking questions that usually get answered by New Year's. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And that's just fascinating to me. And I don't really know what to do with it other than to acknowledge that it is the case. And that's where we are, you know? So, I guess, you know, let's end with this. What are the 1 or 2 things that you are most curious about with Game 4 on the horizon? You personally?
think I'll start with Cat.
Why would you do that? What relevance does he have?
I mean, he got torched pretty badly defensively, and it's everyone's hurt around this time. We talk about it a lot. How much are the injuries impacting his game? And I don't mean that as a cop out. I mean that as a sincere, genuine question. But how he's taken out of games, because you could look at the Mitchell Robinson situation and you could say, well, hey, it'd be better if Mitch made those free throws. Sure, it would be. Mitch is who he is. He is a 27-year-old who has a career of about one of every 3 free throws goes in the playoffs. But I do not fault Mitch at the line, because there's a reason why he's there. And if the Knicks did their job accordingly in other ways, there would be less of an emphasis on those free throws. Or perhaps if there were still an emphasis, it would be because the games are a lot closer, because the Knicks haven't dug themselves into a 20-plus point deficit. So with Cat, especially when we talk about the defensive end, where you place him, how you mitigate his liability, and what you're able to do on the offensive side. Because from an offensive perspective, the Knicks made a choice this offseason. Yes, they went with an incredibly dynamic all-NBA offensive center. But a big thing, and this is not to litigate the trade, and also kudos to Julius Randle, because he's playing incredibly well for Minnesota in ways that it just wasn't working here. Finch tapped into something and got a great result out of it.
Different roster, different role, different everything, but yeah.
But one thing that trade caused was a shift in offensive philosophy. Majorly, of course, where you're getting a low usage center, now one of the highest usage centers, sure, at least, or at the position itself. But what the Knicks have lost compared to years past is frequency of corner threes. They are taking fewer attempts, and we know how much.
The night of the Cat trade.
Yes, we did, and I'm not saying
you were like, "This is
yes,
the first
I
thing
did."
out of your mouth.
And it's going to, and I'm still going to talk about this.
Talk about it, but you should.
Right, and I'm not suggesting, hey, the reason the Knicks are not in this position is blank, but they are creating fewer opportunities, and it's worked for them this season. But I don't want to boil it down to, well, they're not shooting enough quarter threes, so it's a huge reason why this isn't working. But there's something about it, especially when you have Mikal Bridges, who's so good from the corner. You have OG Anunoby, who's so good from the corner. Deuce McBride can shoot from the corner. There are other ways where even the Knicks prioritize those looks, but they haven't this season because their personnel, based on those looks, doesn't generate them. Julius Randle, I think last season, not this one, but the last one, of players who played 500 minutes or more, was like 4th in the NBA in corner 3 assists, something along those lines. The Knicks have not been able to replicate that quite as much. Cameron Payne has done a nice job this year. If you screen out the minutes and don't have a minimum threshold, even if you want to do 200 minutes, right? The Knicks do have someone who is actually elite, and again, incredibly small sample size. But Tyler Kolek, if you had 200 minutes or more, was 2nd in the NBA in corner 3 assists per 100 possessions. But that's such, number one, a small sample size. And number two, perhaps a glimpse of what next year looks like. I don't want to focus on next year. I want to talk about this year. But the threes that they're not able to create, and not all threes are created equal, that is a huge factor. And where does it tie in with Cat? Well, Cat isn't a corner 3 guy. I don't fault him for not being a corner 3 guy. But he's also not creating those looks. So yes, we could talk about the defensive liability, but perhaps one of the reasons the offense has not looked as great is that the Knicks are not generating the type of looks that have gotten them comfortable offensively, even when they don't have the most efficient players. And I know I've shifted gears where I started with Cat, and now I'm back to a corner 3 frequency conversation, but they tie in together. There's a connection there.
And also, let's just make it a little bit more general, because for me, it's Cat, but it's also THIBS. And those two things have to be intertwined, and they have everything to do with the Julius Randle conversation, because in the irony of ironies, it sure looks like right now Julius Randle was way more of a Tibbs player than Karl-Anthony Towns is a Tibbs player. Because what did Julius Randle do? He was, in many ways, the least complicated offensive player that you could give Tibbs. Because what was it? It was, we're going to give you the ball. You're either going to draw 2 to the ball, or you're going to have 1 on the ball, and you're going to try to make a shot. And when you drew 2 to the ball, because of where Julius Randle usually got the rock, the pass out would be, if not to a corner 3-point shooter, as you're suggesting, just to a 3-point shooter in that general vicinity. Maybe it's just above the break. But they were good quality shots. And that is now completely gone from your offense. And on the other side of the floor, like we said for years and years and years, like this conversation about Randle on defense and like how Tibbs had different standards for him and this, that, and the other thing. And yet there were, like, when the Knicks defense was rolling, you didn't notice Randle. You didn't notice Randle because he was a cog, and there were ways to mitigate. Like, how often did we really have to sit here after? Like, there were games where we were frustrated about Julius Randle, right? And what he didn't do on defense. They were completely frustrated.
Yes. I think we're painting a rosier picture than it was in reality.
It was maddening.
But I hear you.
It was maddening. But the fundamental aspect of Karl-Anthony Towns being your 5, which as of right now, until they make a starting lineup change, he is for most of the time he's out there. It is a different animal when it comes to the ways that you can be attacked on defense. That's the only point that I want to make. Look, we shouldn't have even spoken this long about Julius Randle. We'll have plenty of time in the offseason to relitigate potentially, or not relitigate, what happened last summer. And I have a feeling those conversations are going to be very interesting. For right now, I'm like you. I have my eye on Cat and Tibbs, because I think they are the 2 most important people left in this series. Look, Mikal Bridges has not shot well in the series. OG Anunoby was non-existent in Game 3. Jalen Brunson has not shot as well as he needs to shoot in this series. Josh Hart seems to have lost confidence once again in his 3, or at least that's what it looked like yesterday, and has not done enough to mitigate the spacing concerns. Everybody needs to step up. But for those other 4 guys that I mentioned, I don't, and similar with Mitch with the free throws, right? Like, can those guys do more things? Can those guys play better? Yes. But there was something about the Cat conversation, and it's hand in hand with the Tibbs conversation, where it is like at the core of what these players are, in Tibbs' case, who this person is. And I just want to see it now. I want to see them step up to the plate, and I want to see them be big in the biggest moment, literally in Cat's sense, and more not literally in Tibbs' sense. Anything else? I mean, I don't know what else there is to say right now, other than, like, we get to Game 4 and see what they bring us.
Something I've been wondering is, how much does fatigue factor into the Knicks' poor shooting? Because you could look at Cleveland, right? Cleveland lost Game 2, and when Kenny Atkinson said players ran out of gas, really, none of these players has been conditioned. And then you go to Hart's comment about how he actually felt conditioned and prepared for the playoffs. That's a different level of preparation than we've talked about, which is other coaches experimenting with their roster and what works and what doesn't. Maybe Tibbs doing a little bit less of that, but Tibbs preparing teams for going into heavier minutes than not. And I do wonder how significant it is. I just do, at a certain point, especially when the shots fall short. The Celtics have at least 8 guys. The Knicks have maybe 7 they rely on, maybe 7.5. At a certain point, it feels, how sustainable is it? How exhausting is it for them?
We're gonna find out. I don't know. We're going to find out. I mean, right now, through 9 games of the postseason, the whole minutes overdrive conversation is probably neutral, if not slightly in favor of like, maybe it's good that he played them all these minutes, that conversation could flip completely on its head before the end of the series. I do want to give you, because you brought up 3-point percentage, right? What else do you want to say? And then I'll give you.
No, what I was kind of stalling for time for as well is the team that's comparable that we've talked about before, where it's like, hey, if the Knicks want a path to winning a title, they got to look like the 2023 Denver Nuggets. And I've been paying close attention to the Nuggets this offseason, or this playoffs, because such a fascinating scenario. You fired your GM and your coach, and 9 games away from the playoffs. You've got to make things work. Denver is similar in that they heavily rely on really 7 players. They've got their starting 5. They've got Russ off the bench. And then there's one other player I'm blanking on who they seem to run minutes through.
One of the young kids. I forget which one, but yeah.
So Denver is also fatigued, but they're creating opportunities. And to kind of tie it in with how is it working for them? Well, they do have good shooters, and Jamal Murray has historically been a playoff riser, a little disappointing in the regular season, but he does well in the playoffs. And Michael Porter Jr. doesn't look the healthiest, but is still finding ways to try and contribute. And Aaron Gordon is a really good shooter right now and has bailed them out defensively too. And it goes back to the shots and looks that are generated. And a huge reason for that is because obviously Nikola Jokic is I think the best player in the NBA, but it's at that position. It's finding playmaking at 5. That's such a premium asset. And the fact that he is in points per 100 possessions, top 30 in corner assists generated and above the break, corner threes assisted and above the break threes assisted. That's truly phenomenal. And that was the regular season, to be clear. But you're not going to find Cat anywhere near those lists on those lists. And that is a significant gap. And I don't mean to make this into a Cat versus Jokic, because Cat's going to lose that. It's obvious. But that it ties further into the, okay, if Denver and the Knicks are similar, where are they extremely different? And one way where they're different is those easier looks are just not there because the personnel isn't creating them. And it's been stuck in my brain. And now that we have an avenue for me to talk about it publicly, it's just been something I have fixated on, as you know, for a while, but it feels like it manifests further.
We could simplify it a lot more. The Denver formula is what we went into the year with, and it was what we had in our minds for probably 2, 3, maybe even more months. In the year Denver won the championship, they had a 116.8 offensive rating in the regular season. That offensive rating actually went up to 118.2. It is. I went back and I looked. I'm fairly certain it's the greatest offensive rating throughout the entirety of a playoff run in NBA history, or at least in recorded history. So to say that their offense was foolproof when it came to facing playoff defenses, when it came to facing the pressures of the playoffs, game plans change, you're going to exploit teams' weaknesses even more, the whole thing, it held up and then some. The Knicks, I mean, to say like that formula has kind of flipped on its head in that defensively, like, yeah, Cat's been inconsistent in the playoffs. Even with Cat's inconsistency, their defense has not been the issue in this postseason. Like, it just hasn't. Offensively, they have fallen apart, and it's been the signs that we've been seeing overall for several months now, but especially against the best teams who can really, and have certain personnel that can really give them issues. And the fact of the matter is, I think what we've learned, especially with the Tobias Harris experience in the last series, is like all of a sudden now it's not going to take, and I'm not, obviously Benji and DJ have been talking about this for a while. It doesn't take having a Dylan Brooks on your roster or a Drew Holiday or I guess a Jason Tatum on your roster, like bigger wings that you could slot on Cat and not feel the pain of that elsewhere or on the cat matchup directly. So that is just like that Denver formula. That can't be the Knicks formula based not with this personnel, or at least with this personnel with this coach. It can't be. So does it mean they have to go back to the drawing board? No, not necessarily, but it does beg some questions that we maybe didn't have. And then the only other thing I wanted to say, just because you brought it up before, the 3-point percentage. I had not realized this until just now, but so the Knicks on the road in the playoffs, where they're, by the way, undefeated, are hitting 38.7% of their threes. When the Knicks are at home in these playoffs, where they have a record of 1-3, they are hitting 30.6% of their 3-pointers. I don't know what you do with that, but those are the numbers. So yeah,
gotta start booing the Knicks. Make them feel like they're an away team.
Yeah, I just don't really know. Yeah. Okay.
Last question I have for you, just very quickly before we head out. Do you believe that based on the next, what will be at least 2, possibly 4 more games, that THIBS is coaching for his job?
Oh yeah. I don't like, somebody asked me after game 2, or somebody had a super chat after game 2, like, at the very least, could we say that THIBS is like the coach of this team moving forward? And again, this is me, and that was after game 2, the euphoria of game 2. And I was like, no, like what? No, we have to see what happens the rest of the series. Again, he made the adjustment coming out in game 1, maintained the adjustment for game 2. I think the adjustment that he made with the defense had a lot to do with why they won both of those games. Game 3 was a reversion. It was going to reverse. Now, ball's kind of back in your court. What are you gonna do? And we'll see what the answer to that question is. But I don't think anything is secure at this point. I just don't. Maybe he's already done enough to save his job, but if I were running the Knicks, do I think anything is set in stone right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But this is what it is. Okay. Let's get out of here. We both have moms, which will we will get to in a moment. Real quick, we're continuing. We didn't do it yesterday because I promised my family I would watch the game with them, mostly my wife, and I had a great time. Moving forward, though, this week we will continue to be doing playback watch-alongs. So you could go on to Playback and just find the Knicks Film School room on Playback. You could Google Knicks Film School Playback, and the link will be right there. Or if you don't want to do through Playback, you can come on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel, and you won't get to see the game along with us watching along, but you can see us watching along. I'll be doing the playbacks all week. Maybe that's why they lost yesterday, because I wasn't on the Playback. That's, you sold your tickets. I wasn't on the Playback. Oh, here it is. Playback.tv/KFS. There you go. Last thing, happy Mother's Day, Mom. I know you're going to listen to this. I know I'm seeing you in literally an hour and a half, but I hope we had a great brunch. I love you so much. Thanks for your support of me personally. Thank you for your support of Knicks Film School and all the work that I do and we do here. Wouldn't be anywhere in this world, literally, and everything else without you. And so, just love you very much. Happy Mother's Day.
Beautifully said. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. To my mom as well. Happy Mother's Day. Love you very much. Since you would be listening to this in the past, since we are recording this on Mother's Day and I'm seeing you for brunch, I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to ruin the brunch. It just happened. I'll do better next. No, I'm just kidding. She's very much the rock of our family in so many ways, and just an incredible and inspiring person and woman. So love you very much, Mom, and thank you.
Awesome. I will see everybody, for the playback watch along, and also on the post game show after Game 4 on Monday, where hopefully the conversation will take a turn for the better. But we'll see what happens then. All right. Take care, everybody. Peace out.